Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. Today we're going to continue on with some more classic prog stuff. We checked out Genesis yesterday. I'm very excited to see where this goes. I came in with preconceptions of some of the more modern prog metal, progressive metal that we've listened to, and it kind of blew me away, Genesis did. So we're going to keep this train rolling. Next up, we have a request for Jethro Tull, Thick as a Brick. And there's only 2 tracks on this album, at least in the original. I did a little bit of research into this, mainly to find out what version I should be listening to. There's, lots of different remasters of some of these albums. And so one of the original release only had 2 songs on it. It has been split up at least one time into 8 different tracks. And I really wanted to listen to both parts. I think that's the best way to do this, but we're talking about a whole album, and we're already pushing it pretty far. This is going to be a 20-minute thing going on here, so yeah, we're just going to listen to the first part, 20 minutes, and let's see what Jethro Tull's got for us.
Really don't mind if you sit this one out. My words but a whisper, your deafness a shout. I may make you feel, but I can't make you think.
Just like Genesis, there's like a folkiness to this.
Your love's in the sink. So you ride yourselves over the fields, and you make all your animal deals, and your wise men don't know how it
I love those little runs in the vocals.
To be thick as a brick.
I like how that flute line, the first bar, is all around the mulberry bush, and then it changes to their own little thing. Nice little callback to that, though. I wonder what that has to do with the song.
The moral Malay. The elastic retreat rings the close of play. As the last wave uncovers the newfangled way. But your new shoes are worn at the heels, and your suntans rapidly peel, and your wise men don't know how it feels to be thick as a brick.
Nice use with dynamics. Volume-wise, anyways.
So far away, I'm a bad dream that I just had today.
Yeah, got some bells in there.
And you shake your head. You said it's a shame.
Interesting vocal doubling up. It's almost like he changed his delivery just a little bit. Both lines are definitely him, they just sound a little different.
The days of my youth. Draw the lace and black curtains and shut out the whole truth. Spin me down the long ages, let them sing the song.
Hey, bass heavy, trumpets. Another one that's got a little bit of a jazzy influence to it. Yeah, those double tongues, that's nasty. Oh yeah, little triplet there in the drums. And once again, we hear some really cool polyrhythmic stuff where your underlying stuff is playing some really straight eighth notes, it sounds like, maybe. Really straight rhythm. Your soloist is going all over the place. Tempo change? Y'all know I love that. Multiple instruments with just like that sharp, real concise rhythmic timing. Drop the volume on the guitar and switch to that closed hi-hat. It's genius. Bring the woodwind back, slow it down a bit, enter like a ballad phase. It's a very airy instrument too, I'm not sure what it is. It has like a woodsy feel, like a clarinet, but it's a bit more airy, which kind of makes me think it's something in the flute family. But yeah, that timbre mixed with the airiness is really throwing me off. Real nice embellishment there with that Pan's woodwind doing the trill. As the failing light illuminates the mercenaries' creed, the home fire burning, the kettle almost boiling, but the master of the house is far away. Let's bring it back. The forest is stamping, the warm breath clouding in the sharp and frosty morning of the day, and the poet lifts his pen. Real subtle tempo change. Gradual. I dig that. We don't see that too often. It's usually sharp. You know, this bar was this tempo, this bar is another one. They just decide to have two soloists doing their own thing? That's wild. So I'm seeing a lot of parallels between this and Genesis. I'm going to touch on them later. Definitely about the solo and jamness to it, though. I like how that, I'm just going to call it a flute. I love how it sneaks in. Like, sometimes it's very prominent, but sometimes it just kind of like gradually moves into the mix, and before you know it, he's got a killer flute in there now.
Moves onward to the sea. The builder of the castles renews the age-old purpose and contemplates the milking girl whose offer is his need. The young men of the household have all gone into service and are not to be expected for a year. The innocent young master,
Yeah, open it up a little. Vocal runs. Oh. Sorry about that pause. Had a little thing to take care of. Let's rewind this a couple of seconds and get back into this. All right, apologies. I know I don't typically do that, but let's go. Really cool panning effect on that too, so. A little bit of call and response there. Yeah, I don't get to talk about that too often. That's a crunchy sound. A 2-beat effect. Toss it out, we don't need it again. Very cool fill. More of this synergy going on. It's just pure experimentation. That sneaky flute, man, it's popping up in places. Yeah, so we got a bit of energy here. And I think those little da 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 da, it gives it like this bouncy flair, and it just feels fun.
So come on, all you criminals, I've got to put you straight. Just like I did with my old man 20 years too late.
That bass line. Those little bounces at the end of that little riff there. Even the bass is getting on the bounciness.
Your bread and water's going cold, your hair is short and neat. I'll chop you all and make them sure that no one judges me.
I'd almost say that this is a precursor for modern electronica and pop music. And I hope I remember to expand on that, because it's a big thing. I can't cover it right now. I'll be talking over the whole song.
You curl your toes in fun as you smile at everyone. You meet the stairs, you're unaware that your doings are
And
done.
there's such a warmth
And
in
you
this
laugh
section.
ruthlessly as you tell us what not to be. But how are we supposed to see where we should run? Da, 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 da,
Ooh. Yeah. That's some really interesting harmony work there between the organ and the xylophone, the bells.
With your rings upon your fingers and your downy little sideys and your silver buckle shoes. Playing at the hard case, you follow the example of the comic paper idol who lets you bend the rules.
All right. almost entered into sort of a march.
So come on, you child of heroes, won't you rise up from the pages of
Yeah, it's
comic
about
books, the super
120-ish
prog, and show
BPM.
us all the
That's pretty standard
way.
marching, and then just the way that they've,
Well, I'll make your will a
yeah.
testament. Won't you join your local government? We'll have Superman for president. Let Robin save the day. You put your bet on number one and it comes up every time. The other
Yeah.
give the ball back down and they put you first in line. So you
Just having that flute accent at the end of these 4 bars. I guess it'd be a 2-bar phrase. Those trills are clean, but that double tonguing that was at the beginning of this section, just whoever's playing this is good.
So where the hell was Biggles when you needed him last Saturday? And where are all the sportsmen who always pull you through? They're all resting down in Cornwall, writing up the memoirs, not a paperback edition of the Boy Scout manual.
There's a lot going on here. Where is this going? Oh man. Is that it? Okay. I hate pulling up the time to see how much is left, but yeah. We got like 10 seconds left on this. All right. So, Jethro Tull. All right, before I forget, I just want to expand on that topic. I said it was kind of like a beginnings of pop music, because a lot of their experimentation dealt with attack, decay, volume, panning, and it was basically using what we would nowadays have, digital effects, but these could have been analog at the time. but yeah, using things outside of the instrument, using dials, knobs, software, depending on the time, but mixing and editing and mastering tools to create music. There were sections where they were playing with volume, where instead of your attack being sharpest, or your sound being sharpest at the attack, where you get the duh, you get that duh, you get that sharp picking sound, especially on the guitar, or a drum, you get the hit and then the reverberation. Usually, the beginning of a note or a sound is its loudest, and they kind of played with the opposite of that with the volume dial, bringing the volume down at the attack and swelling it back up. And we see a lot of that in pop music, where the largest part, the loudest part is at the end of a note, and you get these big swells and very muted attacks. And playing with panning and stuff like that. I mean, there's a lot of ideas that are used in modern pop music that I'm seeing right here, right in this song. So yeah, that's cool. That's a cool little like linear line. Linear line, yeah, that's what lines are. They're linear. That's a cool little line though. That I don't know how much of 70s, 80s prog, maybe 60s prog. I don't know when this stuff came out. I don't know how much this era of rock influenced modern pop music, but I see a line there. So that's cool. Um, Interestingly, though, I started out listening to this and mentioning some similarities that I saw between this and Genesis. However, by the end of the track, they have similar concepts sometimes, and a lot of the instrumentation is fairly similar. We have that the '60s organ, kind of what I attribute to the '60s organ. There's that specific organ sound I attribute with the '60s and '70s, hippie prog rock kind of stuff, and yeah, then the guitars aren't super overdriven, super bassy like they are now. There's definitely that era of distorted guitar sound. They share similarities in that vein. But the two things I focused on yesterday were complexity in context and complexity in texture. And the context kind of shows up here. We see a lot of highly complex areas of music where it's not complex for a specific instrument, but the song is complex because of the layering of the simple ideas. However, we do not see complexity in the texture of the sounds. The instruments themselves don't really change their delivery or their timbre at all throughout this track. The vocalist has one or two kind of different styles. I wouldn't say they're like completely different delivery styles, but there are. He does kind of jump between these two different I like delivery ideas, where one is a little more like back in the throat, more of like a projection type of thing, and the other one's closer to the front, has a bit more of a colloquial speakingness to it, but definitely not the 4, 5, 6 styles that we saw yesterday with Peter Gabriel. I'm trying to remember comments, guys. I read the comments, and I'm trying to remember. Peter Gabriel, I think, is the vocalist of Genesis on the song we listened to yesterday, at least. Yeah, he had a ton of different vocal deliveries. We didn't really see that here with Jethro Tull. Genesis went through a ton of different effects on their electric instruments. And again, we didn't see that here in Jethro Tull. We actually had a few acoustic instruments. There was brass at the beginning of the track, I think. I kind of remember saying, "Yeah, we got some trumpets," but they never showed back up, and I'm like having like double, I'm double thinking myself. I'm like, "Wow, was that really that, or am I thinking a different reaction?" I don't know. These reactions blend together sometimes. But I'm pretty sure there was some brass at the beginning of the song that never came back for some untold reason. Maybe I got to take points off for that. You guys know how much I love my trumpet stuff. But yeah, and then we had the flute. Like I said, while the song was going, it definitely has the airiness of a flute, but it has the warmth of an instrument made out of wood. And woodwinds aren't exactly my strongest section of knowledge. Um, I know the more common ones, but there's hundreds of instruments in each family. There's no way I could possibly know them all. But to my knowledge, I have never seen a non-reeded wooded flute type of instrument. But I love the sound it makes. It has that airiness, like I said, of the flute, but it has that wooden warmth, and it's just such a unique timbre. I don't think I've ever heard anything like that. Loved it. Anyways, though, so yeah, we had a couple of acoustic instruments. The guitars were played without distortion a few times. I'm not sure if they were acoustic or just played without any distortion. Um, but even when they played heavier, uh, the styles were identical. They didn't go through different stomp boxes or effects, or going through different amps and preamps and cabinets and stuff like that. Every instrument sounded the same for the most part throughout the entire song. A lot of their experimentation came from layering, where they would take one or two instruments and they would play a fairly simple, especially compared to modern day standards of prog music, a simple riff or a simple line. But when you have five, six, seven, eight instruments all playing simple things, it creates, complexity in the music, the way that they might line up. Some instruments might be playing two bar phrases, some might be playing three, so they actually, kind of get out of sync. And then that'd be every six bars, they line back up, and then they slowly phase out and phase back in, and there's that cool little effect going on there. And I'm not saying they were specifically 2 and 3 bar phrases, but they were the phrasing of or the length of the phrases were different through some of the instruments. So we get these phasing effects where they kind of fall out of sync. Their starting points change, and then they come back in sync every X amount of bars. And that's always a really cool effect, I think. It's highly unutilized in contemporary music for the most part, and it's something that I would really love to see more of, just because of that phasing. That, I mean, you can hear when they come back in sync, especially if they both have a very similar entry, like if they both start on the downbeat of beat one, and then you can hear them kind of return back into sync. And it's like when you're watching like a sci-fi film, and like they're separating from their astral self and physical self or something like that, and then they like phase back together and they're like doing this warbling. You can hear that, or at least I can hear that in the music, where I can hear that these two things are out of time, and I can hear them getting back into time, relocking in, and then getting back out of the time. And I love that. And like I said, it just might be a familiarity thing that I don't hear it enough. So when I do, it gives me it puts a little smirk on my face. I like hearing that. Maybe if I heard it all the time, I wouldn't love it as much. I don't know, but I love it right now in time. And I'd like to see more of that. And these guys did that a lot. Um, like I said, a lot of their complexity though is taking a lot of simple lines and overlaying each other, or overlaying them over each other, to create music that sounds more complex, even though the individual actors are playing simple stuff. So it's really group complexity. So that's cool. That's cool. I will say though that I think the song, I'm going to get shot down for this. I think the song went on a little long. There were definitely some of the instrumental sections that I thought maybe we're fine the first time they came around, but the second time they came around, I was ready to move on, and I guess it just speaks for itself. I don't think there's much I can extrapolate from that. It's just a lot of their instrumental sections are jammy. And we've actually seen this before. Genesis had a lot of jammy sections. The instrumental parts felt like a jam. We've seen it before when we checked out Brinsley Schwartz. I think that's how you pronounce that. Um, in their song, which of course was from a similar era, I'm guessing by the sound of the music. Um, but the instrumental sections, they feel like jam sessions. They feel improvised in sort of an undirected way, especially when in this song there was a section where two guitarists were soloing, doing their own thing, and I'm fairly certain the flute came in and started doing their own solo too, and we had three people playing their own thing that just happened to be in the same key signature. um, and it gets chaotic and directionless at times. I mean, yes, of course, we know after 16 bars of this, everybody's going to come back together, and we're going to enter the next section. There is a script to it, but there's also, it seems to me, a lot of ad lib stuff going on too, and sometimes I'm sure it connects if they are doing this improv. I'm sure some live performances there's more parts where the sections actually click together, and it sounds phenomenal. But there's going to be times, especially at the beginning, when they don't have the experience of playing this section over and over and over and over and over, and really knowing what licks fit well with the riffs that the rest of your bandmates are playing. It's going to seem a bit chaotic and just out of hand, like three separate parts that don't really come together much at all. And I kind of got that here in a few places, that the instrumental sections I just didn't think were adding anything to the song, and it's mostly due to them feeling like jam sessions or like pre-rehearsal warming up, stuff like that. um, and like I said, the first time through, I'm like, okay, that was that part, we're moving on. But when they bring it back a second, when they bring it back a third time, there was one section, I'm pretty sure that was repeated two times. And it's just, I grew bored of it. And like I said, the boredom wasn't necessarily due to the fact that we were doing the same part repeatedly. I don't mind repetition. I think my main issue is that I didn't feel it was adding anything to the song. But I'm sure that I might be lacking context here. A lot of the times when I mention something that I didn't like, I'll get some feedback in the comments. Hey, they did this because it fit thematically with the narrative, or they did this because it was at the end of an album. Stuff like that. It was bringing back some themes from prior in the album. I don't have the context of that. Of where it fits in, not even just within its own album, but also within the larger concept of prog rock. And then typically I can't pick up on the lyrics because there's so much going on. So I am missing a lot of context. Please take, what I say with a grain of salt. When I say that it's boring, that I didn't think it added anything, I am missing context. Um, but yeah, that's just my thoughts on a first listen, though. Another thing that just doesn't really work for me, and I didn't really get a chance to bring it up yesterday. I didn't mention this, but I was a little short on time, which is why I stuck to two talking points rather than doing what I'm doing right now, just kind of rambling. I was on a time limit yesterday. I had to get the song out and start bedtime for my kids. I got a late start on that video, right? Or I guess bedtime for my kid and my niece. I mean, there were two kids, but I only have one myself. Anyways, I'm off topic here. It's something to do with the era and genre, and it's not a bad thing. It just doesn't work for me, and I understand that it was just part of the experimentation of the time. But the solos are very repetitious. They'll typically find a single run and repeat it. Maybe they just like it. Maybe it was, fascinating to see them play that at the time, and it's just really cool to play that lick over and over. Um, in Genesis, we heard it a lot in the organ. In this one, we actually heard it a bit more often in the guitarist. But they'll find a lick they like. Maybe it's like dan dan diddle doo dan dan diddle doo, and they'll just keep playing it over and over. 4, 5, 6 times, and then they'll play something else. They'll kind of have a transition phrase until they get into the next lick that they really like, and they'll play that one over and over. And maybe if it was moving, if there was some key shifts, if it was moving with a key progression, it might be a little bit more entertaining for me, but it typically does not. And like I said, I'm sure this was impressive at the time, um, but just for my modern ears, my modern biases, it it wears a bit on me, especially 20 minutes in, and we're on the seventh, eighth solo section, and we're still doing that same concept. The riff might be different, the lick might be different, but the concept is the same, where they have a 2 to 4 bar or 2 to 4 beat riff that they enjoy, and they just keep doing it, and that's it's just not my cup of tea. Um, but yeah, overall though, I like a lot of what's going on here. For a lot of the same reasons that I like Genesis, it is new to my ears, and I like how it's experimental. When we think of prog metal, modern day prog stuff, I talked about this yesterday, where we see a lot of odd time signatures or constant time signature changes, weird key signature stuff, full genre overhauls where we just like take blues, bam, smash it in metal. That's actually not that big of a deal. We take like bluegrass, smash it into metal. We take a hoedown, smash it into metal. Between the Bear and me, I'm looking at you there. We'll take hip hop and smash it into metal. Polyphia, looking at you there. And we just they basically push the metal genre into new directions, but they're very, very focused, razor honed. We are going to mash metal with this, or we are going to make metal that is fast, or we are going to make metal that is difficult to keep up with because the time signature changes every bar. It's experimentation, but it's also kind of structured so much so that it's become a meme of prog metal. And what I really like so far of what I've seen in his classic prog stuff is that it is, to me, a pure form of experimentation. We didn't really have a roadmap to make experimental music. I mean, even that notion, experimental music, brings baggage. We have an idea of what experimental music sounds like. We have stuff like Igor, and maybe even like Cult of Luna was a little like, no, well, no, Diablo Swing Orchestra. Maybe, I don't know. Anyways, we have like an idea of what experimental music sounds like. But this is not experimental rock. This is not progressive rock. This is just playing rock and experimenting. There is no rules, there is no roadmap, there is no walking in the footsteps of those who came before us. We played this riff over and over again, and hey, buddy, you got a pan dial, so how about you start panning it left and right? And you got a volume switch over there. While I'm soloing, just mess around with it. Let's see what it sounds like. It's like the purest form of experimentation. They don't even know what is going to happen. They just want to mess around with things. Can we play the same lick 20 times and 20 times in a row and keep people's attention? I don't know. Let's find out. Can we make it 22 minutes long? Can we make an album that is only 2 songs long and still put it over half an hour? I don't know. Let's find out. And that sort of like joyous I've said experimentation a lot, but I mean, that's what it is. They have no idea what they're doing, what could go wrong, what could go right. It feels so much just like, throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. And there is a sort of, I don't know, it's genuine. There is genuine curiosity to what the art form could be that I don't really see too much in modern progressive music. Progressive music seems to be this fest of one-upsmanship to see who could be faster, who could be more complex. Um, and yes, there that it has its place. Okay, that definitely helps push the genre forward. It helps make better guitarists and drummers and musicians. Some of the best guitarists and drummers in the world, I would say, are found in metal, especially since they can have classical and jazz backgrounds and influences to bring in. They're not always just pigeonholed into being a metal musician. So yeah, there's definitely value to modern prog metal. I'm not trying to put that down at all, but just that pure ecstasy of playing around with knobs and dials and riffs and ideas and not even knowing if it's going to work, not having any sort of roadmap, just doing it because it feels right, because you love to just see where you can take music. It fills me with that same type of love and curiosity for what came before it with jazz. Um, mm, 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 mm. Maybe not came before. I would have to get a timeline because I'm specifically going to focus in on bebop. Bebop was wild, a wild time for jazz and experimentation and really pushing the limits of what music could be. I've talked about bebop before on this channel. Bebop is music for musicians. It was a huge shift in the culture where you had stuff like swing that was mostly played for the audience. Almost everybody loved swing. It was like the pop music of the day. Um, Kind of, I mean, that's not a great analogy, but for the most part, a lot of the younger generation enjoyed swing. You usually had people singing with big bands behind them. Big band and swing kind of go hand in hand. They're technically different, but for the sake of this conversation, we can group them together. Highly popular stuff. Um, and more geared towards being listenable so that the audience can enjoy themselves. If that sounds like pop, I mean, yeah, it kind of is. Um, but then came along people like Dizzy Gillespie and Charlie Parker and Thelonious Monk and Miles Davis. Dang. I'm like 50-50 if I'm remembering Miles Davis is one of like the grandfathers of bebop or not. I'm gonna exclude it just because I'm not too sure. But yeah, the other three guys definitely they played music that was not listenable unless you really loved or understood music, and that's where bebop came from. And I feel like that's where a lot of this prog rock stuff is, where they're just experimenting with things because they love music. They want to see where they can push it. They don't want to make things that are necessarily palpable to a general audience. They want to make stuff that is just exactly where their heart is, whether it's financially viable, whether it's loved or not. These guys came out here and made a 20-minute song, called it half of an album, and played their hearts out, and just you can feel it in the music. They love every bit of this. And I just see so many parallels with that in bebop, and I think that those parallels really draw me to this, even though I'm not entirely attached to the music. I'm enjoying a lot of what prog rock, this classic prog stuff, is bringing to the table. But I'm not 100% sold on the songs themselves. It's more the concepts that I'm really enjoying learning about and seeing how they're being implemented, and seeing also how it kind of not only sits in time as a super experimental era of rock, but also how it's influenced modern music. um, but yeah. I think I've rambled a bit here. We're about to reach an hour long video for one song. But yeah, those are kind of my thoughts so far. We still have three more bands to check out for this classic prog stuff, and they only get more and more prestigious. I'm gonna spoil it right out. We got some Yes, Pink Floyd, and King Crimson coming up. And from what I understand, these are giants in this genre. So really excited to see where that goes, especially since, like I said, I see some similarities between Jethro and Genesis, but they're also very much their own beasts, which is very cool. Because, like I was saying, with a lot of modern progressive music, there is a sort of roadmap. There is a sort of continuity of ideas. What is progressive? And like I said, usually time signatures, key signatures, and genre mashups. Um, but here it's just wild. Like I have no idea what could happen next because literally anything could happen next, other than you know devolving into another genre. It seems that for the most part, we have rock ballads in some of these songs, heavier, more energy driven sections. There's a little bit of folk in both of them. I don't know if that's coincidence or not. Get like a folky, Midwestern kind of feel in both of these songs. Um, but yeah, it's not. It's very different from like the genre skipping that we saw, especially in more modern stuff like Between the Buried and Me, and To the Sky. I think that was where it was just like a different genre every 45 seconds. Um, so yeah, there's that. I do have expectations. I don't think that it's completely limitless what could happen, but the things that they're experimenting with are things that I would not think to experiment with. It's just a really wild, untamed section of era of music that I'm not familiar with, and I'm loving that just raw passion for music and seeing where they can take it. So I am more than excited to finish out this week and see what these these top dogs are going to bring. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Jethro Tull and a little bit on Genesis. I guess I talked about them a little bit, maybe. You can hit me up in the comments though. Let me know what you guys thought, whether you enjoyed it, whether you didn't enjoy it. If any of my opinions are wrong, I'm sure you guys will let me know. If there's any context you want to fill me in on, the lyrics, how they pertain to some of the music. Um, I did read a little bit about the origin of this album. Like, it's based off of a fake kid and a fake story that this fake kid wrote or something like that. Um, I mean, even just making up a fiction to the lore of your album is so experimental. As far as I'm concerned, most modern music doesn't do that, especially not in like we. You guys have let me know that Coheed and Cambria, there's albums tell a story, and there's like multimedia tie-ins to go with this as well. But it's mostly well known. If you get into Coheed, you probably understand about this story, but I don't know if they openly admitted that the character that this album was based off of is not real. Like I don't know how that story fits in, but if they played it straight, even though it was all fiction, I mean that just kind of adds to the over the top. I want to say insanity, just wild experimentation of the era and just kind of doing whatever they want, whether it works or not. So yeah. More context for this band and all bands, honestly. Like I said, I don't have all the context. I mean, it would be kind of impossible to come into a reaction with a ton of context. Kind of defeats the purpose of a first time reaction. But yeah, if you guys want to fill me in, context is always good. Let me know about lyrics or where this fits into the genre as a whole, or albums, their album discography, and stuff like that. Um, yeah, and while you're down there, you can like, subscribe, ring the bell if you like. We passed 10K. I explained some stuff yesterday about what we're going to do. I also have an update video, so I'm going to stop putting these, we're going to do this for 10K. That's all going to go into an update video. Um, And what's next? Twitter, Patreon, those links are in the description if you want to check those out. And I was really wanting to do 2 videos today, just like yesterday, but this prog stuff, long songs. I think what we're going to do is spend this week doing prog, and anytime I have left over, we'll start into black metal, and then any leftover black metal we'll just double up next week with modern prog because those songs aren't going to be long. How did I bookend black metal with just these 2 periods of ridiculously long songs? Um, we'll get it figured out. We'll get caught up eventually. Okay. The scheduling's going to be a little odd, but I can promise you there'll be at least one video every day at 5 p.m. That's the best I can give you right now. If we get 2 videos in a day, that's fantastic. But with these 20-minute songs, 30-minute songs, um, yeah, I just can't promise anything. Plus, the next Patreon, nope, in 3 Patreon picks, we got a 40-minute song. So yeah, we got a lot of long stuff going on, and I just can't guarantee a specific release schedule. But every day at 5 p.m., you'll get something. You'll get a daily dose of awesome music. All right, so you guys stay safe out there, and I'll be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC as usual. Until then, you guys have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos.